It is patch day. We're finally here, and it's finally time for us to find out what MultiVersus Alpha has changed, how it's changed, and how we are now going to have MultiVersus Beta. I have not read this at all, so bear with me if I go a little slow, but we're going to do a whole rundown and see what has changed and what to look forward to tomorrow. Starting off, Iron Giant has arrived. He is our first colossal size character. If you haven't seen it yet, go make sure to check out the MultiVersus page, but you'll be able to see it tomorrow. It's going to be one of the first playable characters that comes out in open beta. 1 through 4 player local play is now available, so we can now play 4 players on one console. As to before, I think in alpha you weren't necessarily able to. I'm not entirely sure, but this means that if you want to play 4 players on one console with you and your friends, your bros, it's going to be more than possible. Global wall fatigue. After spending 5 seconds wall sliding without touching the ground, or starting to wall slide 6 times without touching the ground, you start to wall slide progressively faster. This is a huge change. Normally you would be able to hold on to the wall practically forever. It was insane just how much advantage you're able to get just from being on the side of the stage and just staggering your opponent as long as possible. This is going to be really good for avoiding those cases. After spending 10 seconds wall sliding without touching the ground, or starting to wall slide 11 times without touching the ground, you suffer wall fatigue. Wall fatigue effects: wall sliding no longer resets your air specials and air evades. You can no longer get a double jump after wall jumping. You no longer get a double jump after wall jumping for every 0.5 seconds of wall sliding, or every time you touch a wall, you lose dodge meter. Fire debuff damage now decays over time. This is good. Wait, was it not? That is so insane. So there is the fire debuff damage there in your perks or augments. However, I'm pretty sure it's perks. That you're able to debuff someone on fire, but I thought it actually doesn't decay. It simply falls off completely. So if you had 3 stacks or 6 stacks or whatever, right, it would just fall off completely to 0. But now there's going to be the decay, which is something I really wanted from the start, but I'm glad it's getting incorporated. Abilities that use ammo are now divided into 2 cooldowns. 1 cooldown to use the ability and 1 cooldown to refund ammo. Ability cooldowns modifiers affect both cooldowns equally. Good. It's just so spammy. A glossary of MultiVersus terms have been added to the main menu. Much appreciated. Going to be good for everybody new coming into the game. Added 2 new advanced tutorials covering knockback influence, KBI, and elemental interactions. This is something I'm very curious to see how more detailed explanation of how it works. Dodge. Invincibility frames are removed when canceling a dodge into attack unless the dodge successfully dodges an attack. Dodge jump movement increased slow by 5%. Perks. Signature perks. Arya removed wounded. That is so interesting. They just removed it. New betrayal. Hitting an ally with Arya dagger has a longer cooldown, but the ally is given an enrage buff if Arya dashes to a dagger on an ally. She enrages herself. This is really good. Requires more team play. Would be completely useless though, obviously, when it comes to playing solo. Bugs Bunny lingering love projectile now has a cooldown. Lingering love was forcing opponents to permanently alter the way they played against Bugs Bunny and felt too oppressive. I completely agree. This motherfudger was just placing hearts everywhere. So for those that don't know how lingering love would work, it would practically be just placing a heart, and if you touch it, you're stunned momentarily. Harley confetti explosion now earnable through character mastery. That's interesting. I assume it wasn't available before. Superman new break the ice. Superman deals additional damage to fighters debuffed by ice. The additional damage scales with stacks of ice. Deals additional damage to fighters debuffed by ice. Oh, that is really good. Basically, we weren't playing a lot of ice or playing a lot to freeze, but being able to do this, I think it's going to be really good. We want players to experiment with throwing Frost Breath and ice stacks into their gameplay. Yeah, right before I even read it, I knew that a lot of people weren't playing to freeze. Taz removed right back at you. Taz knew I gotta get in there. Taz's allies can jump into his projectile, giving him more damage, more knockback, longer duration, and armor. It's gonna be interesting. Just gonna see him more as a bruiser. I know some tweets were mentioned to see him played in that manner. General perks. Many perks have been renamed. That's interesting. New general perk, Armor Crush. Your team's fully charged attack, break armor. That is gonna be interesting. Break armor, 75% charge. And if your ally also selects this perk, this is really good. 50% I assume is gonna be the break armor. Static electricity, formerly electric projectile. Charge time reduced to 4 seconds. No longer charges without grounded movement. Didn't really play this one, so not entirely sure how it's going to be effective. The flammable dog, fire projectile, ignite duration reduced to 1 second. That is pretty good because flammable was just stacking too strong. Stack duration reduced to 2 seconds. This might actually be too bad. It might be complete ass now. If you got to play the alpha, constantly gonna be saying that. But if you got to play the alpha, you'd notice that, like, hey, just being able to stack it for 2 seconds is enough. I think it was either 2 or 3 seconds was just enough to be able to have yourself stack it from a few hits. But now being reduced to 1 second, gonna be a little bit more difficult. Or maybe I completely said that wrong. Ignite duration reduced to 1 second. So this means that the damage you take is reduced to 1 second. Not sure if the damage has been reduced. Ice to beat you, formerly ice projectile. Debuff stacks reduced to 1. Stack debuff stacks reduced to 2. That's really good. Ice to beat you, for anyone that doesn't know, there was this build that you were taking where you would take a lot of debuffs on you. In this case, you'd play Batman with an ice projectile. You'd throw ice projectiles, you'd freeze the opponent, and it'd be incredibly difficult to be able to do anything or move. Hopefully, ice still gets a little bit nerfed, simply because there was a big stagger where, like, the moment you get hit by one, you move incredibly slow at 1 stack, regardless of how many stacks you have. Absorbing Go, formerly ability refund on take projectile KB. Unstackable, ability cooldown refund reduced to 7. Retaliation ready, formerly projectile gray health duration reduced to 3 seconds. Stacked gray health reduced to 4. This is really good. You were able to play supports and play from such a long distance and being able to constantly be shielding your ally without necessarily having to take like a big perk that would force you into playing a certain way. Characters, legends, buff, nerfs, change. Neutral air attack. Okay, we're looking at Arya first. Earlier branch on hit make combos more reliable. More recovery when whiffed to allow for slightly larger punish windows. I think that's good. She had a lot of mobility in the air, and I think this is going to be good for her to be able to play for it. Area and grounded up special on hit movement follow is more consistent. Area and grounded down special cooldown reduced to 20 seconds to 18 seconds. That's pretty good. This to give Arya a bit more access to armor pierce as the match progresses. Ground up attacks has earlier on hit cancel frames to allow it to hit combo more reliably. Hitbox was shrunk to better match the attack animation. God damn it, side air attack. That's gonna be interesting. More whiff recovery to give the attack a bit more risk for its reward. Ooh, that's gonna be interesting. The goal of these changes are to give Batman earned ring out power and additional team utility, giving a number of different attacks and combo routes that give Batman the ability to stack and maintain weakened debuff on the enemy. So a big issue, a big thing that I had is that I really wanted to play Batman, and I really wanted to commit to playing him and doing really good with him, but there was a lot of issues with him. You see right here a lot of pluses, and that is simply because Batman was in such a bad state. He was getting a big buff. Grapple can now be cancelled out of using jump or dodge, which I really like. This should give Batman additional outplay options and give him some team utility that he was lacking previously. Grounded down special. While in smoke, Batman and allies ignore enemy projectiles. This should help Batman with a bit more team utility. What? Ignoring team projectiles is such a big... It's particularly imagining this huge wall in front of you. You can just sit in it. Enemy projectiles is really good. I appreciate that it isn't completely bonkers and that you can hide from all enemy attacks. It's just enemy projectiles, but that in itself is really good and such a big defensive play. Area on grounded neutral attacks. Battering on hit now applies 1 stack of weakened debuff regardless, which I think is really good. Before, for the battering, you had to be hidden, momentarily to apply that weaken debuff. Up air attacks applies 1 stack of weaken debuff. So they're applying weaken debuff on almost everything. His side air attack too, his grounded up attack, which is really good because he simply wasn't able to proc the weaken debuff a lot. So being able to do that for his team is going to be really good, and I really appreciate that he got as many buffs as he did. Bugs Bunny, Arya on grounded down special. When exiting from tunnels, Bugs Bunny and allies' invincibility frames have been reduced. Thank God. So Bugs Bunny was constantly being able to use these tunnels over and over and over again. Because of that, he's able to become incredibly difficult to hit. And since he had invulnerability frames, it was incredibly difficult. So I really appreciate this nerf. Aerial and grounded neutral, Bugs Bunny and allies do damage to the safe. When attacking it, the safe could stay on the map for too long. So we decided ally attacks can also damage the safe, reducing how long the safe stays out. Overall, this should provide more opportunities and openings for the enemy team to play around side air attack, has more whiff recovery to allow it to be more punishable. Really, just good. I think these are really good nerfs. They're just not completely reducing Bugs Bunny as a caster. He just throws out a lot of projectiles, a lot of things, and over and over and over. And it's just being really annoying, and I just really appreciate that it wasn't like huge nerfs or like a really big change. Finn, the goal of these changes are to reduce the easily achievable blazing movement speed Finn has access to. Grounded down attack, hit 1 and 2 chains together more reliably. Reduce knockback on second hit. Area and ground up special, hitbox now connect into each other more consistently. That's good. I feel like his combo game was a little bad. Base movement speed reduced. Thank God he can increase his movement speed, which makes him incredibly annoying. Grounded down special, boost of speed now gives 10% increased movement speed on first purchase, 5% on second stack, and 3% movement on each subsequent stack. Reduced from flat 10% on all stacks. It is now capped at 10 stacks and reduced to from unlimited stacks. Yes, boost of speed was incredibly frustrating to play against, but it's incredibly frustrating not because only Finn was getting it, but because his teammate was getting it as well, which made it incredibly difficult to be able to catch up not only to Finn, but to his ally as well. Down air attack, hitbox starts a bit later. Good. Side air attack increases whiff recovery, Crystal now counts as a projectile for perk application. More of a change, I understand. Garnet, kind of a bad unit. I see a good amount of nerfs, but I personally think Garnet wasn't necessarily in a good spot. I think short combo game was really weak, but it wasn't necessarily to play for combos. She is more of a bruiser and kind of just knock people away. Down air attack, startup move increased base knockback. As I mentioned, that increased base knockback simply means, as you know it, she is pushing people away and getting more value out of it. Area and grounded neutral attacks has an additional startup time before it becomes active. Previously, the projectile slow would be active on frame 1, which made projectiles nearly useless against unaware Garnet. That's incredible. Yes, I appreciate this nerf. She just got so much of it. Startup move increased, takes a bit longer before it can be landing cancelled. Added additional whiff recovery to give a larger window where the attack can be punished on misses. Kind of good nerfs. I think this is probably the biggest nerf for anyone that did play a lot of Garnet. You're able to stop projectiles as they're coming at you. So if you're able to do that consistently over and over without necessarily having to commit to the ability, it was really good. Harley, aerial and grounded neutral special. Harley was incredibly good. You see the nerfs. The bomb will now pierce armor. That's interesting. Harley bomb equip no longer counts as an air special use. That's insane that it was even counting. Actually, that's a huge buff. Bat bomb will detonate after 6 seconds even when attached. This is to prevent how oppressive the bomb could have been when attached to Harley. It could cause all approaches to Harley unfavorable. God, thank you. This is pretty much the biggest nerf that she could possibly get, simply because she was getting a lot of value out of bombing herself and then just running straight at you and then exploding it in your face. Fixed an issue where the bomb would disappear when attached to a player that goes to the edge of the hitbox. Up air attack, increased time between when use when up air attack, again when up air attack cancelled by landing. Slightly more whiff recovery. Has more whiff recovery to prevent it from being used. A very strong and safe option for Harley. Aerial and grounded side special can cancel on hit earlier to allow it to be more reliably combo. Startup of move increased. Initial movement speed slowed from 2x to 1.5 to give more time for opponents to react. This is practically like his biggest like change. There was just the aspect that it was incredibly difficult to avoid it. Initial movement speed slowed down from 2x to 1.5 to give more time for opponents to react. It's going to be the biggest change, just a little bit more reactable. I think it's going to be enough for like Jake to feel not as oppressive as he was before. Can cancel on hit earlier to allow it to more reliable combo. Can cancel on hit earlier to allow it more reliable combo. More reliable combo, cancel on hit. That's interesting. More combo game really just given to Jake. Weight lower from 75 to 63. Thank God, this is his biggest nerf. Any weight differences or weight changes is really going to make the characters either more squishy or more killable, right? In this case, going from 75 to 63, huge change, and I think Jake is just not going to be as oppressive. He felt more like a assassin bruiser and I think that's really what they were going for with this nerf. Side air attack, Jake's stretch punch distance is now based on charge time. The sweet spot on the apply attack will only apply if charged for a longer enough time. Interesting. Raindog, this guy was cracked. I'm sure they are not nerfing almost any of his damage. So Raindog is practically a huge DPS. If you haven't seen, you can go check out my videos. But I made a videos of how Raindog was getting so much value. Can be cancelled immediately on hit. Hog. It's basically his specials of being able to cancel things when you're getting hit. Means that you're able to move a lot more freely. Multi-hit will combo a bit more reliably. Increased hitbox size in front. Has faster startups. Movement speed increase reduced from 2x to 1.5. Shaggy now starts with sandwich with each life. Has armor when starting descent. Shaggy is actually getting huge buffs. What? I thought he was already good. Has armor when starting descent. I see. This might change it, but god damn, really more faster startups. They just want Shaggy to be in a better spot than what he already was. I think Shaggy, you could see, was like an A tier even, right? But I felt like he was very oppressive. Other hit console frames. I feel like this is a little too strong. I feel like they're not expecting Shaggy to go as hard or as crazy as I would like to say he's going to become. Steven! Neutral dodge, bubble shield, charges, and refresh time now has shown to the players the ability to cooldown. I appreciate this so much. Requires 10 stacks increase from previous 8 stacks. Bubbled opponents have... What? Okay, so basically Steven was able to bubble opponents, and because of that he's able to make them basically unplayable or not be a part of the fight. You can move them if you catch them on the side of the stage. You can bubble them and even push their bubble further and further off the stage, causing them to be in a very difficult situation when it comes to the recovery. Going forward, he is getting nerfed that you no longer require 8 stacks, you now require 10 stacks to put them in a bubble. Bubbled opponents have more control of the air while bubbled, which is really good. Before it was 0. Bubbled opponents have more control over the movement while in the bubble. Upward movement reduced. I think this is really big nerf on Steven. I felt like Steven was already kind of like a mid tier. He was good, but I feel like this is really gonna suffer when it comes to like the low level play of Steven Universe. Superman. I think Superman was kind of in a tough spot. You kind of wanted to play other tanks instead of him. Wonder Woman I felt like was better, and even Taz, we're gonna go, felt like a better tank than even Superman. Her ungrounded down special. Laser has a longer range and now applies projectile debuffs from perks on knockback. This is really good. I skipped one. Has armor reduced from the attack, but will now break armor. Thank God. This was beyond annoying. There's a lot of armored attacks, and I thought they were so frustrating to play against and so difficult to deal with. Faster grounded side special has faster startup, fair. The jab combo will chain together more reliably. That's fair. I think it's a really good buff, but I have to see it in action to see how good it is. Taz getting both buffs and nerfs. Many of Taz's attacks will retain velocity when branching into other attacks, making his movement less clunky. That's fair. I didn't play Taz at all. There's very little I can talk about, more like how I would play against him. Holding neutral special will keep Taz's mouth open for longer, making it easier for Taz to eat projectiles. I think that's a really good value, and that's really cool because Taz kind of feels more kind of like Wario, right? If you played Super Smash Bros. Moves further, granting a greater range. Weight decrease from 70 to 63. Another big weight change. This is really good because Taz was just playing tank bruiser, right? But this is really good for everybody that like just hated playing against Taz, me included. Arya and Garnet side special, additional commitments before you can cancel out of this attack. Ooh. Has ammo to Taz's zoning effectiveness. This is huge. Taz no longer turn and change directions of the knockback. This was leading to really unearned feeling reversals, while Taz opponents would knock Taz off platform and try to follow up only to be reversed. Yes, sir. This is huge nerf actually. Fixed an issue where Taz could turn permanently invisible. Lol, this is just a fix. Tom and Jerry, the goal of this changes are to bring some more risk to the really large reward from Tom and Jerry have. Tom and Jerry didn't have enough risk, and his close range attacks were a bit too safe. Down air special dynamite ammo cooldown reduced from 9 seconds to 12 seconds. Okay, so to preface, Tom and Jerry are really good at high level play. You can't really see a lot of Tom and Jerry play in low or mid level. It's really just the high level play that felt incredibly impressive. You see a lot of projectiles coming out from him, from both of them, and it was just really difficult to deal with. Additional whiff recovery, bug fizz, Jerry slingshot from Arya and grounded neutral special, and now trigger attack decay. And finally, that is the end of the patch notes. Velma and Wonder Woman. Police car increased health from 15 to 18. This is really good. I felt like Velma's police car kind of felt a little weak. That's a pretty good buff and a very much needed one, I think. Projectile shield will only turn on if Velma has dodge meter. That's interesting. Upper special, reduced size of hitbox. Reduced knockback. Reduce weaken debuff stacks from 5 to 3 on hit. That's really good. I think it was too big. Bug fix can no longer cancel during startup. Grounded up special, increase cooldown from 14 seconds to 28 seconds. Grounded special, Velma is now only able to cancel the grapple with grounded up attack. Wonder Woman sound. Now, new sound effects to make hits feel more powerful. That's Pod. That's just cool. Side air attack, increased hit pause on hits to make the attacks feel more powerful. Base movement speed decreased. Oh, that's lame. Wonder Woman's speed was causing her to be more impressive than we intended. Yes, she was. Aerial and grounded neutral special cooldown increased from 8 to 13 seconds. Lasso was available too frequently and made Wonder Woman oppressive to fight against. Yes, she was. Side air special movement distance can no longer be controlled to make the attack more committal. No, that's lame. That's actually was like incredibly good for her. Bug fix grounded down attack hitbox is now more in line with the visuals. Pog. Alright, that is everything. That is all. We have finally gone through the patch notes. If you have appreciated the rundown, the deeps, the content, the ideas, the concepts of what we're going through, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on twitch.tv. Innovate Robert.